Welcome to the latest instalment of our Buying for Beginners series, where today we're going to be focusing on the Stoic and Honourable Dwarves. Like all of our other Buying for Beginner videos, we'll be focusing on 3 competitive army lists and explaining the best value for money options for each of the units present in them. Taking you through today is me, James The Loremaster Lammin. So let's get started. Now, just take a moment to briefly explain that a lot of the Dwarf range is still available from Games Workshop, specifically all of the 8th edition Dwarf plastic releases. What's even better is that several of them are now available in great value box sets. That said, unfortunately some of the older kits, particularly the artillery and the missile troops, are no longer produced, so we're going to have to take a look at some other manufacturers to get some replacement options for those. Now, on to the main event. I'm going to go through some competitive lists and take you through exactly what you'll need to buy for each unit or character present in them, and we'll give you the very best cost that we could find those items for. The first list we're going to look at is a 1500 point list, then we'll move on to a 2000 point list, and finally we'll take a look at a Triple Crown Wargaming event standard 2500 point army list. In each one, we'll try to keep as many of the units and characters the same so that you can build up your dwarf force and not end up with lots of units sitting in a case gathering dust at the end of this video. Although I think it's fair to say we're probably all a little bit guilty of that. Now, beginning with our 1500 point army list. This is going to be led by the mighty dwarf king Belegar Ironhammer. As he's a special character, we cannot customise him, but he does come atop an Oathstone with Gromrel armour, the Shield of Defiance and the Hammer of Angrund. Moving us on to our heroes, it's just the one in this list, a Runesmith sporting 2 runes of Spellbreaking and a shield. For core units, we have a unit of 20 Longbeards with full command and great weapons, and supporting them are 14 Quarrellers with the champion, standard bearer and shields. For special units, we have a cannon with a rune of burning and a rune of forging, a Gyrocopter with a steam gun, and finally 20 Ironbreakers, which also have full command, and their banner bears a rune of Stoicism. This comes in at exactly 1500 points on the nose. So, what's the best value options for building this list? Well, we can wrap a pretty large chunk of it up with the Start Collecting Greywater Fastness box produced by Games Workshop. This will give you Belegar, the Gyrocopter, and 10 Ironbreakers. Plus, you'll also get the Grim Burloxen model, which isn't featured in our list today. That's a good chunk for £60. With the Gyrocopter and Ironbreakers setting you back £30 each outside of this set, you're effectively getting your characters for free wherever you choose to purchase this box from. Speaking of characters, we still need to get our Runesmith. Fortunately, the 8th edition plastic Runesmith kit is still available from Games Workshop and can be assembled with a variety of options. Now personally, I have this model 3 times and I've managed to make him look different every time, just off the one frame. That's great because it's awesome to have lots of variation in your figures like that. Now this model comes in at £15 but is direct order only these days. We're going to get stuck into our core units and we're going to begin with our Longbeards. As with the previous units, these 8th edition plastic kits are still produced and are direct order from Games Workshop. They come with enough parts to be constructed with hand weapons and shields, or great weapons, and there are options for full command groups in every box you buy. Furthermore, the shields are separate from the arms in the kit, which means they could be placed on the backs of these models or used as shields for other models in your armies, like Quarrellers. Personally, I'm a big fan of this because it helps to tie all of your models together, especially as the Quarrellers we'll be discussing later are not Games Workshop models. So it's really great to be able to put some Games Workshop shields on them to help them match the 2 separate ranges together. Now, we're going to need 2 boxes of our Longbeards to get to 20, so that comes in at £60 for the unit. On to the Quarrellers we just mentioned, and for the first time today, we're going to have to look elsewhere as Games Workshop no longer produces them. I'd recommend the Kings of War Iron Watch Regiment as a good replacement. They're the right scale. Aesthetically, they're a very reasonable match for the rest of your army, and as you get 20 models for $19.99 direct from Mantic, they're great value too. Now this box is going to give you enough for this list with spares, and these models can also be constructed as Thunderers too. Now that's not particularly relevant for the lists we're discussing today, but it's good to know there are options for Thunderers out there, as, like with the Quarrellers, they've also been discontinued by Games Workshop. Looking at our special units, we can see that we're a little short, pun intended, on our Ironbreakers. Now we've got 10 from the start collecting box, but we need 20, so we're going to have to pick up another box of Ironbreakers to top the regiment up. These models can only be equipped with hand weapon and shields, other than the champion, but the kit comes with enough to do obviously everyone and full command in every box. You also get the option to build the alternative Iron Drake regiment as well. Again, we're not going to want to do that today, but it's always good to know. These are another direct order kit and they come in at £30. Now, we've got our Gyrocopter thanks to our start collecting box, so that just leaves us to find a cannon model, and it's going to be a replacement again as Games Workshop no longer produce the Dwarf cannon kit. There are lots of cannon models on the market. However, I'm going to be quite assertive here and say that I strongly recommend you taking a look at the Kings of War Dwarf Bombard. I say that for several reasons. Firstly, its crew fit in really nicely with the Quarrellers you're using. Secondly, it looks, in my humble opinion, the most like the original Games Workshop Dwarf cannon. And it's the correct scale for the rest of your Armies figures. Finally, at £15 direct from Mantic, it's a fantastic value kit again, so there's just no good reason not to use this one as your cannon. Now, that wraps up the first list in our video, and it comes in at a total of £199.99 if you order it directly from Games Workshop and Mantic Games respectively. As a good percentage of the units here are only available at the direct price, there isn't a huge amount of discount that you're going to find shopping around in independent stockists. However, there is a little bit still. If you picked up your units that are available with discounts from somewhere like Bald & Swords Hobbies or another independent stockist, you can probably shave £10 to £20 off this price. So it might be worth spending a little bit of time just seeing what you can find. It's also worth remembering that what we have already purchased gives us more Quarrellers than we needed and the Grim Burlockson model. So we've got some options that we can play around with in our list before we have to spend any more money at all. Okay, so we're going to move on to our 2,000 point list. Now this one also sticks pretty closely to what we already have. So we're going to begin once again with Belegar Ironhammer. This time, however, he's joined by two heroes. Returning is our Runesmith. However, he's only got one Rune of Spellbreaking in this list and a shield. He's joined by Thane, who has been upgraded to Battle Standard Bearer. He has an Oathstone, a Great Weapon, and the Master Rune of Grugni. For core units, we're sticking with our unit of 20 Longbeards. They're unchanged from the previous list. However, we now have 2 units of Quarrellers in support of them, instead of 1. Both are 10 models. One unit has shields, whilst the other has a standard bearer instead. Now, they're the only upgrades we've put on our Quarrellers in this list. The cannon, which began our special choices in the previous list, retains its place and remains unchanged. In this 2,000 point list, however, we've increased our number of Gyrocopters with steam guns from 1 to 2. The 20 Ironbreakers from the 1,500 point list have also received some reinforcements, as they've been increased to 24 models. Otherwise, they remain unchanged, maintaining full command and the Rune of Stoicism. Finally, to reach 2,000 points, we're going to have to dip into the rare slot, and we'll complete our list with the addition of an organ gun with the Rune of Accuracy. As with the previous list, this one is also bang on the points at 2,000 on the dot. So, we're not going to have to buy very much to pump this list up from the previous 1,500 point version. Thanks to the spare Quarrellers from the first list, we don't need to buy any additional core units at all. We do need a Thane Battle Standard Bearer and another Gyrocopter, and we also need a few more Ironbreakers. So, this is a great opportunity for us to grab yet another start collecting Greywater fastness. That fulfills the Ironbreakers and Gyrocopter immediately. If you use one of the spare standards from your Longbeard or Ironbreaker frames, you can simply swap the hammer arm on your second Belegar model to build a Thane Battle Standard Bearer on Oathstone. Now this is a little bit of kit bashing, but it is pretty simple if I'm honest. In fact, it's how I built my Thane on Oathstone with Battle Standard. but I had to buy my Belegars separately because the Greywater Fastness box wasn't available when I did mine. You get plenty of spare heads in the Longbeard and Ironbreaker kits too, and I'd suggest swapping one of them onto your Thane so that he has got a different head to Belegar. Just helps to make the model look different and not look like you're using the same figure over and over. Now, you might need to do a little bit of smoothing out on Belegar's chest area to do this. You might have to slice off the odd locator nodule, etc. But honestly, it's a really easy swap, and thanks to the great value of your start collecting, your Thane's effectively 3. So we've increased the size of our Ironbreakers, we've got our Thane, and we've added our second Gyrocopter for £60. That leaves us with the organ gun. Now, like the other artillery we've discussed, Games Workshop have also discontinued this model. Fortunately, we can turn to Mantic miniatures once again for a suitable alternative. This time, we're going to use the Iron Belcher cannon kit, as it has the option for an alternative construction, which is aptly named an organ gun. It's probably the best alternative organ gun you'll find out there. It fits in nicely with the kits you've already picked up, and comes in with a whopping $9.99 price tag, so again, it's fantastic value. Okay, that's everything you're going to need to grow your 1500 point list to a 2000 point list, and it will take the price up to £269.98 if we buy it direct. Again, we've got a little wiggle room in there for making one or two of your units slightly larger or smaller, depending on what you prefer. And if you shop around, you'll probably find you can save about £20 or so. Right, let's move on to our final list of the day, which is a 2,500 point army with scores to settle. Once again, this list builds upon what we've had previously and is led by Belegar Ironhammer. There are 3 heroes in the list this time. The Thane Battle Standard Bearer is exactly the same in the previous list, with a great weapon, the Master Rune of Grugni, and an Oathstone. He's joined by 2 Runesmiths this time. The first one has a Rune of Spellbreaking and a shield, and the second one has 2 Runes of Spellbreaking, a shield, and a Rune of the Furnace. Moving on to our core units, the 2 units of 10 Quarrellers return. Both units are now equipped with shields, and one has a Standard Bearer and the other has a champion. The core slot is rounded off with a larger unit of Longbeards this time, 26 to be precise, with full command and great weapons. Going into our special slot, we still have a cannon with the Rune of Burning and the Rune of Forging. This is now accompanied, however, by a second cannon, which has no runic upgrades, so just a basic cannon straight out of the book. There are 2 Gyrocopters with steam guns, and 24 Ironbreakers with full command and a Rune of Stoicism. Finally, in the rare slot, we have 2 organ guns now. The first one has a Rune of Forging and a Rune of Accuracy, whilst the second one just has the Rune of Accuracy. This comes in with a total of 2,497 points. Unlike the first 2, it's not on the dot, and that's a little bit annoying, but that's life, isn't it? So, at this point, I'd like to take a moment to recommend where to place your characters in the list. So, in general, I'd place Belegar and a Runesmith in with the Longbeards. This confers Stubborn to them from Belegar, and Armour Piercing is added to their weapons, which is a nice combination as long as the characters are alive. Then I'd place the Thane and the other Runesmith in the Ironbreakers. This gives them the ability to parry in the flank and the rear thanks to the Thane's Oathstone, and confers Armour Piercing from the Runesmith to them as well. So, upgrading from 2,000 to 2,500 points is another short leap. I'm going to be honest, I just can't help myself at this point. Short leap, love it. Now, from Games Workshop, we need an additional box of Longbeards and an additional Runesmith kit. From Mantic, we're looking for an additional Dwarf Bombard and another Dwarf Iron Belcher kit. That's it for purchases of models, and like before, we're going to have some spare models for trying larger units of infantry. These final increases take the total cost for the army if you buy direct to £339.96. Like with the previous lists, if you shop around at some independent stockists, you could probably save yourself around £20 to £30, depending on where you can sort of find it from as well. Now, this is a fantastic price for a strong dwarf army, which also has many other options we haven't included. We could bring our units of both Longbeards and Ironbreakers up to 30, for example. We could include Grim Burlockson And as we've got 2 of that model, we could convert one to a regular engineer in a similar way that we turned Belegar into the Thane, giving us yet another option from what we've already purchased. We do need to consider bases, as all of the Games Workshop kits we've looked at today are now supplied with round bases, which isn't a lot of good as we need squares. Now, we found the best Games Workshop equivalent bases come from a company called Tiny Worlds Wargaming. They all come with a slot on the underside of the base to make magnetising them really simple, and they also sell magnets and movement trays too, so you can get everything you need in one place. At $3.99 for 20mm square bases, or $14.99 for 100 20mm squares, both either with or without slots, these are really good value for money. Similarly, they also sell 40mm bases in packs of 5 for $3.99. For this army, we're going to need around 70 20mm bases to do everything, including the models that we're not actually using in the list. And we're going to need 2 40mm bases for our Gyrocopters. The best value therefore is to buy 100 20mm bases and a pack of 5 40mm for a total of £18.98. The Mantic models come with square bases already, so we don't need any for them. Now, all in, the total for the army and bases at a direct price is £358.94. In summary, the Dwarf army has a fantastic range of models and units, giving you plenty of options for your gaming experience. We feel that the ones we've outlined here today are both competitive and fantastic value, the holy grail for wargaming, if you will. Other grails are available. Thankfully, you can build your army up further from this point with ease, as we've seen throughout this video, so make sure you enjoy building your collection in the future. I hope today's snippet has helped you understand what I believe are the best choices for a competitive Dwarf army, and hopefully it's shown you some ways to save a little bit of money too. If you've got any questions, or you think we've missed something out, or you'd just like to talk to us about certain units that are no longer available from Games Workshop and what we might want to use to replace them, then feel free to contact us on any of our social media channels. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can email us directly. All of the links are below. And as ever, we'll do our very best to help you out. Join us next time for another instalment in our Buying for Beginners series, where we'll look at another Warhammer army, or head back to the Night of the Realm mustering ground, where you can find links to all of our exclusive content. Remember to tag your friends and like, subscribe and share today. What are you doing, mate?
I'm sharing.
It's not that sort of sharing, mate.
Oh. Head over to triplecrownwargaming.com and become a Knight of the Realm today.